Mark Ritson, thank you for joining me.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing well now that you're here. You are a new drum columnist, and it feels quite drummy to have our first chat in the open and see where we're going to take the column. But first of all, we're going to do a bit of a Mark Ritson origin story. No one's released that movie yet.
Yeah, let's go. I mean, I can vaguely remember. So I'm like 55. I can remember some of it, not all of it, but let's give it a go.
You don't even have to tell the truth. Like, make it sound good. So,
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
so when you were a wee boy, cutting about, did you always dream of being the world's premium, toppest, most highest profile marketing professor?
No, funnily enough, no. There's an interesting distinction, I think, between me and most, not all, but most marketing professors in the sense that I really had no interest in ever being a professor of anything, but I've always annoyingly been very into marketing. And so I think one of the major ways to understand me is to realize I became a marketing professor because I like marketing. And most of the people I work with became a marketing professor because they like the idea of being a professor. And that thought recurred throughout my career. And I'm not really a professor anymore. You've got to point that out too. I mean, I was a professor for 25 years, but I packed it all in. You know what I mean? And I think you can, most people don't stop being a professor, but I've definitely stopped. I've no interest in doing it ever again or anymore. You know what I mean? So I've served my time.
You've confessed that you no longer profess. When I can rhyme, I will rhyme. You'll learn about that in the headlines. Yeah, so you've been about, and ChatGPT. Yes, I do use it sometimes. Says 25 years of teaching. I'm just going to fact check that. Is that even correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I think it was 24 and a half years before I packed it in.
We'll give it the points for that. So, how do you feel about the direction that the education discourse has went in marketing? I get pitched a lot of op-eds, as you know, and some of them are, we don't need any education. You just so happen to sell education, so it feels like a good time
Yeah.
to talk about education.
It's tricky because I do feel passionately about this one, but also I've obviously got a dog in the hunt. But yeah, I mean, we're a very unusual profession in the sense that we don't think we need any training, as you say, and we're even proud of not having any training, like it's a bad thing. And there's no other profession I've ever seen have that level of nihilism. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you need training in marketing. I mean, you don't have to have it, but it really helps if you get some, you know. And it's very interesting. About, I don't know, three quarters of the marketers we get on the mini MBA are paid for by their companies. So a lot of them, again, three quarters, don't have a proper training in marketing, and the company has put them on the program, and so they probably don't feel like they need it, at least for the first couple of weeks. And the transformation in these people in 10 weeks, and the average age is somewhere in the middle of they're in their 40s. It's stunning because they start saying to you on LinkedIn, "Oh shit, this is amazing. Like I'm learning all this stuff. I feel more confident. I really feel like I'm going to be much better at my job." And I'm like, "Yeah, isn't it amazing? When you get trained in something, you just get better." And we had all these agencies having a crack at a slogan for mini MBA, And in the end, I mean, this is terrible because I'm not a very good creative person, but I just went, no, 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 none of them. Training makes you better is what we should say, because most of the fuckers in marketing don't really believe that, and yet the minute you give them training, they go, "Oh, I'm way better," So no, you need training is the short answer. To be fair, though, on the other side of the argument, the quality of marketing training, particularly at universities, is so poor that you could make a strong case for saying maybe they're better off without it. And that doesn't fill me full of any joy to say it, but you can't have marketing taught by people who don't do marketing, right?
Mm.
You can make an argument that they've done marketing and they've stopped and now they teach it. Even that I'm uncomfortable with. That sort of applies to me now. But you certainly have to have done it. It's a practical vocation, and I'll give you a good example. My dad, who's a retired school teacher, he was always bemused by my colleagues in the different business schools because none of them were or had ever done any marketing. And he's like, how does that work? And I'm like, I can't really explain it to you, Dad. Do you know what I mean? And I used to do a lot of work in medical industries for large medical companies. And I work a lot with professors of surgery. I used to work a lot in biosurgery. And professors of surgery are amazing because what they mostly do is fucking surgery. And then they teach a little bit of it on the side when they're not doing surgery. Because otherwise, how could you teach surgery without doing it 4 days a week? It's interesting in the university world, we somehow get away with that. And I don't think that's right. So on both sides, it's a bit fucked. But I have to say that what's nice about it is if we can get the three-quarters of marketers that aren't well trained and give them training, they all get better, and that's what we have to do.
From my perspective, I've been working at the drum, well, say working, whatever I do, 12 years, 13 years, and I learned marketing through not reading, not learning, literally interviewing some good marketers, some not so good ones. And these last few years have been about unlearning a lot of what I not only was learning, but writing and publishing. Like
Yeah,
these days, if I worked for Farmers Weekly, how you get a potato to grow probably hasn't changed much in the last 50 years. But the fact that there's so much debate and argument around just how to do the basics here always makes it
yeah.
quite hard to ground in a journalist on what the actual with the bar
Well,
is.
you're right. You're right, John. And the problem we've got is that the nature of marketing is everyone wants to rewrite the basics and they literally don't understand them. Yeah. So you'll get all these people going on about the funnel, why the funnel is dead. They don't know anything about funnels or how to do them. And then they can make a judgment, right? The reason marketing is in so much trouble is all these people have tried to add P's to the four P's and none of them understand what the four P's are and how they're meant to work and how they were originally intended, right? So we're an industry where not only are all the buffoons kind of untrained, they're all trying to redo the industry without knowing what it is in the first place. Do you know what I mean? And there isn't another discipline that stupid, unfortunately.
We do enjoy when a marketer brings out a new P. It will immediately be the headline every single time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to set these people up to fall. Productivity is the new
Yeah.
P, or you said it, brother. You can have it. Yeah, so that feels like a constructive chat there. Obviously, this is an industry that always professes to be changing. In this ever-changing landscape is what all the op-eds I get sent to say. I'm beginning to push back on the change narrative quite a lot. If you're not prepared for change, then how could you call yourself a marketer? What are you actually doing? Can you only operate when the things are a constant straight line? Mark, I don't understand what's happening, and I'm glad we can have this conversation.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. I get it. I would say my estimate's about 1 in 4 of the questions I get starts off with that preamble, right? And it sounds almost exactly the same. So someone will say, in a world where consumer attention spans are dwindling and where unprecedented change is taking hold, yeah, and the foundations of marketing no longer apply, blah 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 blah, right? So what that question is, I call it the pornography of change. It's someone that's just lost their marbles about the state of everything, and that's very handy because again, back to our training conversation. If everything has changed, I don't need any training because everything has changed. That's very helpful, first of all. But second, I've got myself in a real frothy old mess reading LinkedIn because everyone there is selling change, right? Usually with a book or software or a consulting firm. There's money in the pornography of change. There's no money in me sitting here in my underpants telling you, yeah, things are changing, but it's pretty much, change is the standard. It isn't more change than before. Consumers haven't got less attention spans than 100 years ago. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? It was pretty changey when I was a young man in the late 80s in marketing. We had lots of change then too. There was the discovery of the internet. That was a bit of a change as well. So there isn't this logarithmic thing. It's just marketers, again, losing their shit over change and getting obsessed with it. So yeah, I think we have to really push back on that one. I mean, AI is obviously you see, I get more points than most people on this one. I wrote helpful columns about how COVID wasn't going to change anything when all these people were full of shit about it, right? I wrote about the metaverse the day Facebook did Meta, and I said that's pants as well. I wrote about what were those monkey art things called again?
NFTs. Do not say anything
Yeah,
bad. Don't do
NFTs. I
not.
said they were idiot magnets. This is all historical fact,
Mark, the
right?
drum has been paying its staff in NFTs. You've just massively devalued them. Years of work down the drain. Come on, man.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And so I think I get more credit because I've been consistently against all these things. I do recognize AI as a proper revolutionary change, but it's not happening at the pace that a lot of people are stating. Agentic stuff is really difficult. I'm working on it at the moment in the US. It isn't what it appears to be, and it won't be for a long time. So I think we need voices that aren't trying to sell change and that are a little bit more realistic about what's likely to happen rather than what might happen if we all lose our marbles and take our clothes off and jump out the window.
I agree fully, which isn't a very good interviewing technique, but we'll get on with that. In this newsroom here, we're trying to work out what happened yesterday, and then everyone will try and get comment out of us trying to tell us what will happen in 35 years' time. There's a disconnect, but we'll leave on from that.
Well, and remember, right, the ad contrarian makes that great point. Bob makes that point that the great thing about predicting the future is no one can tell you you're wrong yet. You know what I mean? And no one comes back to it. So
Oh, I will. I've got everything that everyone's ever said written down, and they'll be getting done on this AI thing. That's for sure.
very good.
I'll be
Very
waiting.
good.
I'll be waiting. Um, so when I look at AI, we obviously have the internet now. What a great thing! I, I was a bit young. I was playing with Pokemon at the time, but I believe there was some sort of bubble that burst with the early internet, and everything fell apart before it sort of kicked in.
Yeah.
I sort of feel it sort of
Yeah.
feels like I'm not even going to say it, but that brings me on to you've had how many people have you had through the MBA so far?
Well, it's a matter of great debate. We sort of our records aren't perfect. More than 30,000 is the short answer.
That will do. How do you feel about some boardrooms, CEOs, CMOs talking about no longer needing these practitioners? AI will simply do it. Mark, AI will do it. Will it do it?
Yeah,
I don't
look,
think so.
I mean, it's an interesting scenario, right? I mean, first of all, in some marketing, the quality of some marketing departments means that might not be the worst thing that could happen, right?
Yeah,
It also speaks to the fact that we haven't really, in many companies, made the case for marketing very well. And it also speaks to the fact that when most people say marketing outside of marketing, they're just talking about advertising, right? So all of those things mean that yeah, there is a reason why that statement is floating around. I also personally think it's something that could eventually happen a long, long way down the track, right? If you look at what people like me do, it is not impossible all of a sudden to envisage it being done much better by an AI system, but one that, unfortunately or fortunately, isn't going to be with us anytime soon. I do think at some point the analysis of synthetic data, the building of synthetic brand plans, and crucially the testing of those plans in a synthetic world. So you run 40,000 different plans to see which one produces the most money. I think all of that, if it's doable, and eventually I think it is it's an existential threat for most marketers in the business. I mean, what is AI going to do? It's going to remove process. What is marketing when it's done well? It's a process, right? So, yeah, not yet is my point, but yeah, I can see why eventually it could happen. If you did it now, it would be a disaster, right?
oh, and
But who's
and
to
they
say?
are, and we're watching very closely who's doing it right now. We'll let that play out. I'm not here to judge. Well, that brings me on to my next question quite well. You've worked as a consultant in your life, and obviously you will not want to burn any bridges. But what are some red flags you see when you come into a marketing department? What gives you the deepest sense of butterflies that this is going to go wrong?
I mean, there's a couple of things to look at, right? I mean, first of all, if you get brought in as a consultant, it's never because things are fantastically successful, right? So you don't go in there and you expect it to be a bit fucked, right? Um, but I believe most brands are thoroughly redeemable. It's interesting as I've got older and more experienced. I've done more work with private equity, um, and that's a very intriguing and useful learning experience. I once was sent to London to go and explore Watches of Switzerland, the luxury retailer, because a private equity company was having a good old sniff. This is a long time ago. I think it was my first big private equity gig. So I flew to London, I looked at all the data, and I did all this and did all that. And at some point, I rang them up and I said, they were in America, and I said, "Why do you want to buy Watches of Switzerland?" And they said, "We don't. We want to buy a hard luxury retailer, and this is the only one that's maybe for sale, right?" And so what you learn as you work more and more with private equity is they start with a category.
Mm,
And if the category is strong and there's a decent brand within it, they'll always buy. And of course, that's not how marketers think because we start with brands.
yeah.
But it's the wrong thing to look at, right? So the question really should be, first of all, how's this category looking? Yeah. Because even if we're a relatively average brand, shit, we can be a declining brand. If we're in a juicy marketplace, things are going to be pretty cool. You know what I mean? So I'd say, yeah, it's finding out you're in a category that's in decline. Um, I worked a bit for De Beers back in the day, and they weren't then, but I'd say now they're completely fucked. Because of synthetic diamonds. That's a hell of a marketing challenge coming. So it's the category itself I think you'd look at first.
We'll catch up on De Beers soon enough. And those synthetic diamonds, you can actually fill your house with diamonds now. Like you could theoretically go and just. Anyway, you probably have a diamond room, Mark. I won't dig. You,
Well, look, I'm not big on diamonds. There's other luxuries in life better than diamonds, especially now, given the arse is falling out of the market. You know what I mean?
okay, yeah, that's no use. Well, I've been accused of clickbait and trying to create emotive opinion pieces in the past. So I'm just going to ask a very neutral question, and that's what are the topics or things that piss you off the most?
Oh, look, I'm pretty. I mean, it's again. We talked about it earlier. When marketers who don't understand concepts try and change them and update them without understanding what they are in the first place, that drives me batty. Um, Anyone who calls themselves a guru or anything like that, that always turns me off straight away. Like I can call you a guru, but you can't call yourself a guru. Do you know what I mean? Like whenever people do that, I'm like, what? People call themselves disruptors and all that stuff. Um, I don't like anything related to demographics. Uh, I just think it's the biggest lot of. I mean, demographics obsess me a little bit. I mean, even the Pew Institute in America, they kind of invented demographic stuff, doesn't use them anymore. Demographic cohorts. So this Gen X, Gen Y stuff is probably the single biggest indicator that your marketer doesn't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? The idea that your birth year is somehow going to configure various things about you. And weirdly, it's also politically very incorrect. You know what I mean? Like you can't talk about correctly. You can't talk about people's gender or race predicting how they're going to behave, but we're totally comfortable going, yeah, your age means you can't use social media, or you're not very loyal in the workplace. It's non That's one that really drives me crazy. Absolutely bonkers.
I do get a lot of them when the agencies ran out of ideas. Gen Z's behaviour is going to change. I hate it. It seems to erase human individuality and all the sort of quirks and things you should be using to target. Yeah,
And the data has never supported it, right? So if you read what the Pew Institute have said in the last 2-3 years, you're just not I mean, obviously, someone who's 18 is going to behave differently from someone who's 28. But that 18-year-old, when they become 28, is gonna basically be the same person, right? So what you're picking up really is time. That it's a different era than it was 10 years ago. You're not picking up any differences in the person. So it's a very lazy way to slice the market.
and you probably didn't need to expend all that money on working out that people of different ages do different things. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, let's talk about your columns to date. Um, what's the definitive Mark Ritson column? And I'll say so far.
Oh, look, I'm pretty sanguine about it. I mean, I'm because I'm a marketing guy. It's not really for me to say, right? I mean, the first thing that having done 20 years of column writing now, what you realize is very well, not very quickly, but eventually is the amount of effort and hope and pride you take in a column has zero correlation with what it will do when it goes out. Do you know what I mean? I've written things literally in 15 minutes on an aeroplane that have, become, 500,000 comments in the first 3 hours. And I've spent 2 or 3 days like doing proper writing and no one even notices it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it's for the reader to decide what is or isn't a good column of mine. What would I say? I'm very proud of what is a good one. The Burberry column I wrote, and that's one I pulled out, right? So I pulled out when Marco Gabbani started as CEO at Burberry, and I kind of know Marco. I worked with him at Givenchy a long time ago, and I really rated him. He was a fantastic executive. But he went into Burberry, and I thought he got everything wrong at the start. And I wrote a column saying, "Look, I love Marco, blah blah blah, but it's not going to work, and here's what's going to happen." And it actually took 5 or 6 years for that column to turn out to be true. But I literally put up the FT article saying why Burberry was in trouble next to my column from 5 years before, going, "This is why it's going to cause trouble," and it's almost word for word right. And it's of course, what you learn is nobody remembers these things, even though you do. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong for that matter. No one picks you up.
I'm sure you found it very satisfying, Mark.
Personally, I did, but I also then find it quite pathetic because no one else is even, look at my column from 6 years ago. It's right. It's not a good post. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, there are no good posts, Mark. That's the thing. You sort
No,
of yeah.
from you, John. That's maybe you can say that. That's for you to say, not for me to say.
You sort of gave the game away when you let loose that effort and love into a piece does not naturally correlate into its performance.
No.
I've got so many bad examples of that, but I'll not go into them.
Yeah.
Here's a question you might not like. This one's a cracker. What's one time you changed your mind, and why did you change it? What was it on?
There's a couple. There are not many, but there are a couple. I think generally, when Ehrenberg Bass turned up 20 years ago, they were so radically different in two or three things. I was very critical of them, and I've come to realize they're mostly right. I also got called up last year at Cannes because a lot of brands now aren't bothering with gay pride and making their brand a rainbow color. And I think at the time I said, yeah, it makes sense. There's no kick in it anymore, blah blah. And I forget who it was sidled up to me later on and pointed out I was totally full of shit. And basically what she said quite correctly was, for gay people, they're always constantly being othered and made to feel like they're not welcome. So the one thing companies can do to go, it's all right, we're not, you are welcome, is do that every year, and it is still a good thing to do. And I thought, you know what, I've not, as a boring straight white middle-aged male, I never thought of that, and of course I wouldn't have thought of that. So there are times where you get busted, and it can be quite delightful to be busted every now and again. I think it doesn't happen that often, but enough that you do get, you get turned around, and it's a good feeling, especially if you can write a column about it.
Well, I think that's the point of doing it as well. Like everyone else is welcome out there to come onto your LinkedIn and tell you why you're wrong. I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
yeah. Especially today.
But I think it's important. There's a couple of precepts, right? Though you can't write anything that you don't believe, right? Because then it smells inauthentic. So I've never written anything I didn't 100% believe. But yeah, if someone, and then you're absolutely right. On LinkedIn, people will always point out, what's wrong. But I never let that go. I always chase that down because unless I'm actually wrong, in which case, that's a good point. But 99% of the time, I don't think I am, and I'm not. So I do chase those comments down sometimes and point out to the people why they're wrong. You know what I mean? That's also important.
Yeah, and you're allowed to change your mind as well. That's the whole point.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't used to like
It's actually a
ban.
signal of
Yeah,
strength, right? It's not a
yeah.
signal of weakness, right?
We need more flippers on opinion for sure.
Yeah, no
Uh,
shit, no shit.
and speaking of opinion, we've got a lot of columnists out there who are trying to do your shtick. Now, obviously, they shouldn't do your shtick; they should do their shtick. But I wonder if you could offer them some advice to writing a column. I know you have a very unique and surprising way, which is a bit more ad hoc than I thought it would have been, which was impressive, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think first of all, you got to write for a long time to get good at it, and it's not a matter of intellect or it's like anything else. You just got to do it and find a place that's. I mean, I can happily admit I think I was really bad for at least 5 or 6 years of a weekly column, right? Really bad, I used to do all the things, all the Muppets. I used to refer to my own columns as if other people were reading, remembered them. Like, as you know, it's one thing a lot of idiots do. Like they go, as you may remember, 3 weeks ago I wrote about blah blah blah, and you're like, no, no, don't do that. And then the other clue is when anyone refers to it as a piece, like I wrote a piece, and it's like, what? What is that? What is that? And then the last one that I think is a good tip is just write about the fucking work. You know what I mean? Don't write about your take on fucking personalization. Nobody cares, man. Right? It's all about the work, right? We're like plumbers. This is plumbers weekly. You know what I mean? Like write about plumbing. That's why we're here. So I think they're the
Write
main
about
ones.
the
But
pipes. You have to write about the pipes, Mark. You
you have to write about the
write
pipes.
about the pipes.
That's the only reason anyone exists here, right? But, I do think every and the other thing is you've got to do it every week. You can't, everyone wants to be a fucking columnist for about 3 weeks, and then they go, "Oh, hang on, I haven't got anything else to say." Do you know what I mean? You got to be able to sit down in your underpants and bang one out in 2 hours or less every week, or ideally a couple of times a week, right? Otherwise, you can't be a columnist. You know what I mean? I guess the other bit that goes without saying that's obvious is you're not meant to fucking agree. When I started out, I'm not exaggerating. The market, what was the guy called that used to write that terrible fucking column? Anyway, there's a bunch of people who used to write these terrible marketing columns in Marketing Week and Marketing, and it was things like, why listening to the customer is a good idea, and it was like, what? Like that was the weekly stuff they used to knock out. You know what I mean? And it was like, yeah, okay. Why would you ever read that? And when I started writing for marketing, I can remember the first 3 or 4 weeks of it. People were like, you can't write that," and I'm like, I just did. It's in the magazine. You know what I mean? And the point was, I always said to my first editor, Craig, I was like, I'd like to get fired by Christmas if I can. You're gonna have to fire me. Do you know what I mean? And he'd laugh, and I'm like, I'm completely serious, right? And every now and again, you find yourself going, right, I'm getting a bit soft here. Let's remember that the job is to get fired or get very close to getting fired, right? Because of what you're saying. And I think that's the other thing. You're not reporting news. You're a columnist. You've got to believe what you're saying, but it can't be what everyone else thinks because otherwise it's boring. It's so fucking boring.
I already think
Which
what I think.
let me add one more, John. Which means you got to go early. You can't be writing about. There was someone writing about fucking Jaguar this week, right, on LinkedIn, and it's like, dude, you're literally a year late, man. It had to be within 36 hours, ideally 12 hours, because otherwise, what nobody cares, man, right? You know what I mean? Like everyone's still chipping away now at what's her face and Sydney Thingy and her jeans. It's done, man. It's gone. It's already gone.
I just published a piece on Sydney Sweeney. I now officially declare it done. Done.
Done.
It was done
Done.
after I finished it.
Done this morning. Done this morning.
Hopefully done, we could say. We never know what will come next.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be looking at the White House using the Jet 2 theme next, which is a comedy, Armando Iannucci headline. But we'll see. Yes, timeliness on your topicality. Please do not publish a Jaguar piece a year later.
Yes.
Well, you've almost taken us to the end of the call here. A nice half an hour on the dot. Fantastic. let's pretend that we know what you're going to be writing come September, and we have a full content plan.
Yeah.
But is there anything you're vaguely thinking of approaching or tackling? You've been on the bench for a few months now, and you must be itching to. No, he shakes.
Nope.
You don't
No
need to.
idea.
Well, that's great. We'll be very topical.
Well, I mean, well, that's it. I mean, if you start out with, I'm going to write a column this week, right? It's going to go horribly wrong. So all you do is you have to percolate and wait and go, oh, that'll be interesting. Oh, that's interesting. See what I mean? Like, and because it has to be timely, you have to wait for it to come. And the good thing about being old, and there are very few good things about being old, is you know what you can and can't do now. I know I can. The week before we start, so the last week of August, I'll just start having to think. Do you know what I mean? And then I'll bang it. I mean, I write them in 2 hours or less. I always do. And then I'll send it to you, and then I won't think about it ever again. You know what I mean? Like that's what you do, right? I'll have a little look at LinkedIn a couple of days later to see how it's gone. You know what I mean? And see if people have discussed it. And honestly, that's the process, man. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's dead interesting in the sense that, when I started out as a PhD student and then a junior professor, all I ever wanted in my life was for any marketer who really did marketing to ever reference me once. You know what I mean? Like, this really was the only thing I cared about. And I guess it's still embedded in me that as long as people are debating it, I remember, I'll give you a good example, John. I wrote an article years ago about brand purpose at Unilever, where my point was, it made sense for some of their brands and it made no sense for a lot of their other brands, right? And I couldn't believe Unilever were dumb enough to treat all the brands the same. And I said, I really hope there isn't some poor fucker on a train right now putting together a deck for the brand purpose of pot noodle. And later on, I found out that the marketer who really had the job of coming up with the brand purpose for pot noodle read that and actually sat thinking for about the whole afternoon, what the fuck am I going to do? Right. I mean, I got that. Somebody told me anonymously later on, it was me. And I read your column while I was having to do it. And it's like, that's brilliant. You know what I mean? So it's stuff like that. Yeah. We'll see what happens in September, John. I'm sure there'll be plenty to write about. That's for sure. And we'll just get going, mate. We'll just get going and see where it leads us. Bit of trouble, bit of happiness. You know what I mean? A drink, perhaps at Christmas, and on we trundle. I mean, the other thing that informs a lot of my work, as you probably know, is the stunning realization that I and you and everyone else will soon be dead, and none of this really matters. Do you know what I mean? If we can have a laugh and have a bit of a chortle about our industry in a way that's interesting, then our job here is done. You know what I mean? We can go and do other. So yeah, man, that's that. I've no idea what I'm going to do. I've no idea how I'm going to do it. I've not really thought about it, but I'm sure by September the 1st, we'll be rolling on all cylinders. I
It'll be
assume
fine.
we will. I mean, it may not work. I may sit here like an idiot for 4 weeks without producing anything, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
You'll be in good company. If you don't write, I'll not be editing. It'll be perfect. That will be September 1st. That'll be Mondays when
Yes.
you log on, and by you I mean audience of this. There will be a piece waiting for you, and it will be really good. Unless it isn't. So, Mark, thank you so much for your time. I know it's late over there in Australia. So you've been really patient, good, nice. I'm looking forward to it. Speak to you again.